If you've been following the Artemis mission and you're amazed by that, what I'm about to show you is going to blow that out the water, because NASA has got tons of plans. And this has come from the administrator, Jared Isaacman. He shares all the information, the future plans, going to the moon, going to Mars and beyond. Honestly, there's so much to unpack with this video. Jared Isaacman is really pushing the boat out. He wants this to succeed. There's so many missions going ahead, guys, with NASA. So anyway, let's enjoy the video.
Into what's most likely low Earth orbit, and we will rendezvous the Orion spacecraft with likely both of our landers, so the SpaceX lander and the Blue Origin lander. Let me tell you, this is going to be cool. Now, the pictures that came back from Artemis 2 were really wild. I mean, they were just outright exceptional. But what you're going to see with Artemis 3 is going to be equally very cool. We're talking about, in very short succession, 3 of the most powerful rockets in the world are going to have to launch to put Orion into Earth orbit, to put the Blue Origin lander into Earth orbit, and for SpaceX to put their HLS Starship into Earth orbit. I mean, all of this is going to happen in, call it, like a week. Like, we haven't fully dialed the mission plan, but expect it to be in kind of that neighborhood. That's going to be cool. I mean, you know, what a display. And then you're going to see Orion again rendezvous and dock with those 2 landers, so we can test out the interoperability of the vehicles. That we will learn from for sure. I have no doubt that will result in some hardware improvements, some software improvements, again, procedures and training updates, but it should give us the confidence to move on to Artemis 4 in 2028, and that's your Apollo 11. That's where you're going to see American astronauts walk on the moon again. And even though we are building on the incredible legacy of the pioneers of the 1960s and picking up where Apollo 17 left off, we are not just going back for the footprints, the flag, and the rocks this time. We are absolutely going back to stay. In parallel with everything I just talked to you through, we're going to build a moon base. Starting in early 2027, you are going to be able to witness on a near monthly cadence uncrewed robotic landings on the south pole of the moon. We're going to throw everything at this, and we are going to learn. Some of it's going to work, some of it's not. It should. This is an incredibly challenging environment in the South Pole. I mean, you have permanently shaded regions down there. You've got water ice, which is predominantly the reason why we've chosen that location. But you're going to, again, see landers, rovers testing crewed, uncrewed mobility, power, surface comms, orbital comms. We're going to have observation capabilities. We are going to set up a moon-based website so you can follow along as this all comes together. And then, it's pretty cool to think about, right? There's going to be no doubters this time. I'm telling you, we're going to... And what's our goal when we have astronauts working, working alongside the moon base if it comes together? No doubt, lots of scientific opportunities. I can tell you, I've said it many times, we could go to every one of the 10 major NASA centers, raid the pantry of all the scientific instruments we have available, and there would be still so much excess mass and volume on all these landers and rovers that are going to go to the surface of the moon. So we're going to go out, we're working with industry, academia. I mean, there are going to be university students here in America and really all around the world that are going to be building scientific instruments and tech demonstrations that are going to be on the moon in the next couple of years. I mean, pretty wild experience. But we're going to do this to learn everything we can from a scientific perspective, an economic perspective. Can we unlock a lunar economy? That would be pretty cool. But we're also going to do it for tech demonstration. We're going to work with the water ice on the south pole of the moon. We're going to demonstrate in situ resource manufacturing so we can make propellant. And why is this important? Because we need this environment to master the skills for the day that we send American astronauts to Mars and be able to bring them home safely. So what that means, I tell you, when you see NASA astronauts on Artemis 4 step off those landers onto the surface of the moon, know that we are very close at that point in time to being able to actually send astronauts to Mars. The velocity difference is negligible between going to the moon or Mars, and we already know how to keep astronauts alive for a long time in space. Any of you in this crowd that are 25 years old or younger, you haven't lived at a time where we didn't have astronauts alive continuously on the International Space Station. So we know how to do this. The hard part is once you get them there, how do you bring them back? We're going to have to make propellant on Mars to do so. We're going to prove it out a couple days from Earth on the moon, and then we're going to apply that to a future Mars mission. Now, This is all in line with President Trump's national space policy of returning to the moon, to do so to stay. But he also said in the policy that he signed on my first day on the job was make investments in the next giant leap capabilities to go beyond the moon. So I'll tell you, in 2028, we are going to launch the first of its kind mission. I mean, a total throwback to the days we could undertake big, bold endeavors that people would think impossible. We are going to launch the first of its kind nuclear-powered interplanetary spacecraft. We are going to send it to Mars, might even go past Mars, but as it approaches, it's going to release the Skyfall payload. This is 3 Ingenuity-class copters, like helicopters, that are going to fly around the red planet and scout it out. They're going to use ground-penetrating radar. They're going to find good sites for future crewed landings. They're going to look for water ice that could be under the surface. Incredible mission, but it's going to be an important stepping stone for America to get underway on nuclear power in space so we can start to explore the solar system around us. What else are we doing? We're going to still send astronauts to space on a good cadence. Every 6 to 9 months approximately, you'll see a crewed mission launched from the Space Center to go to the International Space Station, where we work to ignite the orbital economy. So that way, for all the kids here, you grow up in a world with lots of commercial space stations. Having more people living and working in space is one of our biggest goals at NASA. And I'll tell you what else, we still have some absolutely inspiring scientific missions that are going to launch in the next couple of years that no one other than NASA would be capable of pulling off. I told you about the nuclear-powered mission in Skyfall. We are going to launch Dragonfly. Dragonfly is a nuclear-powered octocopter. It is a 1,000-kilogram drone. So this thing's a monster with a radioactive power source. And we are sending it to Saturn's moon of Titan, and it's going to explore around looking for biosignatures. Unbelievable. If you've never heard of Dragonfly, look it up. It's one of the coolest missions we could ever launch. Later this year, 2026, we're going to launch the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope from Kennedy Space Center on a Falcon Heavy, which is a very cool rocket. And what is this thing going to do? It's going to go out and try and unlock the secrets of the universe. This telescope's got 100 times the field of view of the Hubble telescope, 1,000 times the scan rate, all right? And we got more coming up. So this is your NASA, everyone. We changed the world July 20th, 1969. We're about to do it again. Just stay tuned over the years ahead, and happy to take any questions you got.
Mic to open. There we go. Hi, guys. I'm down here on the front. So this is a pretty rare opportunity to be able to ask a direct question. I see your hand go up. We'll come to you first here. Hi there, sir. Ask your question.
So we talk about setting people up in an environment that we know that the human body has got less resistance when we're up there. We also know that viruses can be more active when they're up there. I'm familiar with the program in the Ohio State University that's been funded, then not funded, funded, then not funded. And they just got word that wait another month. So we appreciate your leadership because we finally got people with balls running the agency. But it's the funding I'm concerned about, specifically for the science stuff.
And that's that and even broader, right? I mean, there's a number of ways you can tackle that question. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So let me tell you a little bit about this one. You know, we got a pretty big budget when it comes down to it, NASA. Look, we are grateful for every dollar the taxpayers make available, whether it's $20 billion or $25 billion. We get a lot of resources. You can do some incredible things with that. What I would tell you that I've observed is that we tend to try and do a lot of littles to please everybody. And that was okay for a long time when you had no competition. Let me rephrase that. I'm not sure it was ever okay, but when you didn't have competition out there to do a lot of what we did over the years, we spread a lot of goodwill, we partnered with everyone, we tried to fund lots of individual projects. In the end, though, if they don't bubble up to do some really extraordinary things, the kind of things that make the headlines we all saw this weekend, you're not really fulfilling the promise you made to the American people as the world's most accomplished space agency. What we are trying to do now is concentrate our resources on the absolute needle-moving objectives, return American astronauts to the moon, build the moon base, fill it with scientific payloads, tech demonstrations, take the next giant leap. So that's your nuclear power and propulsion to Mars. Ignite the orbital economy and launch more missions of science and discovery. To your point, and I'm not familiar with the specific funding at Ohio State, I would tell you being able to keep astronauts alive and healthy in the incredibly harsh environment of microgravity, whether they're in the International Space Station or 1/6 gravity on the moon. We have to learn about that. That would be a great example of making sure you have resources in the right direction. But I can tell you, having looked through it, every year we've thrown away hundreds of millions, billions of dollars on things that didn't bubble up to the right outcomes. Give you a great example of it. Nuclear power and propulsion, the way we're able to pull this off right now, I'm going into the pantry and pulling hardware off the shelf from 30 years of failed nuclear power and propulsion programs. Taxpayers have spent over $20 billion on nuclear power and propulsion at NASA. We haven't flown a single reactor in 60 years. So we're going to go and get some of that hardware and launch our equivalent of the Nautilus, get underway, prove that it works, get it out of the lab to follow up with other missions. But that's a good example of bad capital allocation that's existed in years past, and we're fixing it so the right kind of programs are funded like what you pointed out.
Brooke, we have a question over here from Lewis, a really good one.
Hey, thank you for being here, and big congratulations on Artemis II, especially on that emotional homecoming. My question is regarding the ignition event that you had, especially in phase 3. What are the specific skills that the current astronaut cohort is maybe lacking, or it will be needed in future cohorts? Plus, is NASA planning to increase the number of frequency of astronaut selections in the near future? Thank you.
So what a great question, right? And to me, that's one of the overarching goals. We have a lot of them, but one of them is making sure we get more people living and working in space. I mean, that's the goal, to become a spacefaring civilization, go out and, explore our solar system. This is the great frontier. I mean, I kind of distinctly remember as a kid in geography class being disappointed that we discovered all the oceans, crossed all the seas, climbed the mountains, found all the islands. Well, I'll tell you, even at the scale of our solar system, let alone the galaxy around us or the 2 trillion other galaxies, we have truly only just begun in this. Now, when it comes to building out the moon base and what type of skills are we looking for, I mean, there was a day, right, that NASA was only test pilots. And now we have to incorporate more and more automation in our vehicle. And the farther we get away from mission control, we're going to have to rely even more on automation. So are test pilots a good skill? Sure, but not the only ones, right? We're going to be working on the moon. I mean, that's we're going to be interacting with the regolith, 3D printing regolith, doing in situ resource manufacturing. That's a whole different set of skills. So, whether it's scientific backgrounds in geology or engineering backgrounds in structures or software due to the degree of automation, certainly medical. I can't emphasize that enough. And to your point, sir, I mean, look, the human body does not like being less than 1G. We have all sorts of issues: vestibular, cardiovascular, bone density loss. The farther you get away from Earth, I almost guarantee you're going to have some psychological issues in addition to physiological. So having healthcare professionals interested in joining this endeavor is going to be extremely important. I would just say the more we move away from just pure test-related missions and move into more of habitability and operations, it's going to open up almost every skill set that would be required for maintaining like an outpost here on Earth, like an Antarctic outpost. And that's not just test pilots and engineers.
Over here with a question, off to your left with a question over here from
Gotcha.
Michael. Michael?
Okay, thank you very much. And listen, I want to say, first off, congratulations on a successful launch and mission. I would argue that the Artemis program is a Frankenstein vehicle of space shuttle program. So I think that's a reflection of all the hard work and the years that were afforded into the space shuttle. On that effort, so you got the RS-25 engines for the main thrust, right? So you've got with every mission that is launched for Artemis, you're eliminating the inventories of the RS-25. So 2 questions in part. So one is, what is the evolution to the next RS-25 engine? How are you going to restock that supply chain and that industrial base? And also with the skill set departing, you've lost close to 30% of the critical skill workforce in the last couple of months. I'm actually one of them that just retired in January. So I'm curious to see how you're going to work these very complicated situations that's evolved into a potential risk.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, so 2 questions there I interpret as like, one, I'm just going to say, what is the future of crewed moon rockets after Artemis 5, which is what's already called for and funded in the One Big Beautiful Bill? And then what are you doing to restore core competencies at NASA The only thing I would just clarify is that I think the 30% thing is not spot on when you take into account the civil servants plus the contractors. 75% of NASA's workforce is contractors. We preach about a badgeless society, that everybody's the same. So really, you're not 18,000 to 14,000. You're 55,000. That's gone down to 51,000 or so. And what I'm trying to do is move a lot of those contractors back to civil servants right now. I think there are certain core competencies that should be expected of NASA, that we should be extreme subject matter experts at, that should be civil servants. I would say almost everything related to the launch operations, exploration ground systems. If you're building the rocket, you're launching the rocket, mission control. That's going to be one of our, that was my first pilot program on that. For those that don't know, when astronauts call home to Houston, pretty much one or two people that they're speaking to on the other end are civil servants. Almost all the rest of mission controls contractors were fixing that. They're about to become civil servants. What else are we doing now that NASA is not the only game in town to bring in talent? Alongside Scott Cooper at the Office of Personnel Management, we created NASA Force. We can go out to industry, bring in term-based appointments into NASA, help grow our young talent and experience them on 1, 2, or 3 year terms. And vice versa, we can then send NASA workforce out for like 6-month rotations in industry so they can gain experience from another perspective as well. And then you just got to keep the internship program. And I'll tell you what else, you got to launch missions like Artemis 2. That's exactly what's going to inspire more kids to want to grow up, take an internship, come work at NASA, join this great endeavor. Your other part of your question is, what do we do with our moon rockets going forward when a lot of the shuttle heritage is exhausted? Well, we put an RFI out to industry at the Ignition Day and said, we want 2 different pathways to go to the moon, because America is never giving up the moon again. And we want to launch crewed astronauts to the surface of the moon to support the moon base every 6 months. I have no doubt that you're going to see all sorts of combinations from the existing SLS providers. You're going to have core stage in there. I'm sure L3 would like nothing more than to keep production going on RS-25s on that. I suspect you're going to see Orion bundled with multiple different booster providers, and I'm sure you're going to see some of the new names like Blue Origin and SpaceX contribute too. And that way we have 2 different pathways, and more competition is good because that's going to drive down costs, and that's what's going to enable us to see astronauts walking on the moon with greater frequency.
Rook, I'm over here now on your right. On your right, far right.
Copy.
I'm short. I'm going to turn the flashlight on my phone so you can find me. I've got Tiffany with me over here with the question. Tiffany, what's your question?
Tiffany.
So I've heard Artemis known as Moon to Mars, and I know we're trying to build a moon base on the moon. How long do you anticipate it will take for us to do research on the moon for us to send humans to Mars?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think before 10 years is too soon, and 20 years just seems way too late. We're going to want to really get comfortable with in-situ resource manufacturing on the moon. When you think about it, there are thousands of people that contribute to the launch, and I'm talking directly contribute to the launch, not the tens of thousands across NASA that also come together to pull this together. Thousands of people working under 1G in one atmosphere to launch a rocket from Earth, right? And we're going to obviously be transitioning to a totally different head count when we've got astronauts on the moon base and certainly on Mars. So we want to get extremely comfortable on the moon, that we have in-situ resource manufacturing really dialed in. We're going to want to get nuclear power, not just SR-1 Freedom, but LR-1, which is will be our first lunar reactor on the surface of the moon, because you're going to need a lot of power to manufacture that propellant. And I would hope in some, once that's going, some 5-year time frame with enough missions, you will gain the confidence to be able to undertake a crewed mission to Mars. But there are no one-way missions to Mars. So I hate to spoil it for any of you out there, but if I'm running NASA, that'd probably be an auto disqualification. You got to want to be able to go there, do amazing things for humanity, and then come back and tell us all about it. And to do that, we got to be very good with in-situ resource manufacturing. We got to have a lot of power. But that's what we do at NASA. We take on ambitious programs like that, and we deliver.
Rook, I am now over here. My flashlight is shining on my phone. I want to introduce you to Brielle. Brielle has a really excellent question for you.
Brielle.
I want to ask, how do you become an astronaut?
Well, what a great question. And I hope Artemis 2's mission like this causes a lot of other kids to ask the same question as well, is how do I grow up and contribute to this unbelievable endeavor? And let me tell you, you are part of the Artemis generation. You are growing up in an incredible time where more people are going to be launching into space, living and working in low Earth orbit. Hopefully, lots of commercial space stations will at least have one moon base. I'm hoping we have more by then, and probably you'll have real consideration on whether or not you want to undertake a cool mission to Mars. So, like I said, this is one of the KPIs we track the most. How can we get more people living and working in space? A lot of the good work that's being done here in Florida right now between SpaceX and Blue Origin. You have other companies too, Rocket Lab, Stoke, working on rapid reusability, bring down the cost materially to put humans in space, to put mass in space, is how we're going to have an orbital economy. It's how we're going to have like a moon base, and how we're going to have a lot more people living and working in space and going to Mars someday. You're growing up in the absolute perfect time. And I'll tell you, whatever career path you want to pursue in this, like whatever profession, follow your passion on it, because I'm telling you, whatever that passion takes you, we're probably going to need it on Mars someday.
Awesome. Thank you, Brielle. Thank you very much, Brooke. I've got a question over here from Forrest, then I'm going to come up the middle to you over there and then make my way back to the other side. Forrest, I'll go ahead and hold it. What's your question?
With the recent success of RS-25 with the Artemis mission, has that changed NASA's confidence at all with the vehicle and maintaining its usage in future missions beyond Artemis 5?
Yeah, I mean, it worked absolutely well. I mean, the idea, every time we launch, we gain data and we get more experience, more expertise to roll into subsequent missions for sure. And I would say we already kind of generally knew that RS-25 was a good engine throughout all of its great service in the Space Shuttle program. They performed incredibly well on Artemis 1. They did great on Artemis 2. And like I said, we put out in RFI 2 different pathways to go to the moon. So that we can go with frequency and have that dissimilar redundancy in case we have to stand down one vehicle for a period of time, we can rely on the other. But this is also good from a competitive perspective. That unbelievable rocket you all witnessed fly before, I mean, you can look at the OIG reports. I'm not even telling you a number, just know it's extremely expensive, right? And if it stays at that price, the best you can probably do is launch on an annual basis, and none of us want that. I mean, we want to see we want to grow up in a world where people are launching to the moon quarterly, I don't know, monthly someday. So, you know, RS-25 has had an unbelievable run. It absolutely could continue to do so as part of the proposal, and I would almost guarantee you we're going to see responses back from all the SLS providers, including the RS-25 in there, but we're going to have somebody else, no doubt, 2 different providers. Competition is a good thing in our society. Drive down costs, increase the frequency of crew and cargo going to the moon. That's the game plan.
All right, I'm right here in the middle for you right now, and we've got Stephen with us. Stephen.
Hey, Jared. First things, thank you for your leadership, awesome leadership. I got a question in regards to the increase in mission cadence. What is your current plan as the new NASA administrator to actually lead and adapt the NASA workforce into this change in leadership, allowing and then flowing down the actual risks from the program level to the actual lower level?
Yeah, it's such a good question, right? Because it's really easy to come on the stage or host an Ignition event and say, we're going to do all these amazing things with a lot of great renderings and PowerPoint. How do you put it into action? How do you truly execute? Well, I'll tell you, for starters, NASA is not going to be passive anymore. Like, we are not just a procurement agency that sits back and waits for everybody to deliver us hardware and software. That's not going to happen. We are playing an active role, and we are going to drive outcomes. So we're taking NASA subject matter experts and we are inserting them across the supply chain. I mean, we got a lot of prime contractors, we got a lot of subcontractors, tens of thousands of people come together to do a mission like Artemis 2. And what am I asking for? I want to get back to an annual launch cadence, maybe even a little better than that. Is that unreasonable? We used to launch moon rockets every 2 to 3 months around here. Used to launch shuttles every 2 to 3 months. In fact, every program that NASA has ever had from a rocket, a NASA-designed rocket, from Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, through the shuttle program, on average, launched on every 3 months. And SLS between Artemis 1 and 2 was 3.5 years. And had we not put in changes, everybody would be waiting here 3 more years for the next episode. That's not how you do the moon business. That's not how you go back to the moon rocket with frequency. It's not how you maintain muscle memory. So we're going to get back into an annual cadence. That's 3x what we used to do. I know we can do it, and we're going to drive outcomes. We're going to put people across the supply chain, like I said, every component on the critical path. And if something's going over budget or behind schedule, we are going to take action. And I don't even care if we have to make the damn part ourselves in order to do it. But we are going back to the moon with frequency. NASA's back in charge here.
Brooke, I'm off slightly to your right. I am going to just briefly ask you, because when you talk about cadence and muscle memory, it really dovetails into your background. You're flying fighters. You understand what it takes to be consistent. How does your background in aviation, fighter jet aviation, all of those things inform the way you're making decisions at NASA?
Well, I feel very lucky. I've had a great aviation and spaceflight career, and I've surrounded myself throughout the years from some unbelievable leaders, and I've tried to learn a lot. But I have to tell you, a lot of the decisions that we are making today aren't based on my background. They're based on NASA's. I mean, we literally are pulling out the playbook that worked for us on July 20th, 1969, when Neil and Buzz walked on the moon, and we're just doing it again. I mean, moon base, you can happy they come in. We could build a $2 or $3 billion rover that would take forever. It would definitely be over budget, behind schedule to see one rover on the moon. I think a lot of people around here, we could literally dust off the rover we had in the space program before. You guys see astronauts riding a dune buggy on the moon. I think people are going to cheer and go nuts on that one. So we're going to build lots of rovers, and we are going to learn, and what we learn will inform into the next one. We're not going to build the glass dome with the crops in it and the Ferris wheel out of the gate. We're going to do lots of landings, lots of rovers. We're going to learn from it, just like we did in the 1960s. America.
It's like you planned it. What a great TOT. Yeah. Question over here. I'm sorry. I want to make sure you were finished.
I want to say this is what we did in the 1960s. There was Mercury before Gemini, and there was an awful lot of Apollo missions before Apollo 11. We do it in an evolutionary way, an iterative way, learn, roll it into the next one. That's exactly how we're doing it with the moon base. That's how we're going to get the Artemis program back going. It is, again, how we're going to get back to the moon so we can stay.
Perfect. I've got a question here coming from Kirsty.
Okay. Hi. First of all, I want to say, as a Riddle grad and NASA contractor, thank you for everything you're doing. Yep. Go Eagles. I wanted to ask, are there any plans with the new moon base to reuse infrastructure from Gateway on those future projects?
Yeah, so, I mean, our moon base guy, Carlos, by the way, if you haven't met him, he's awesome. He's like an internet sensation now, but he's like one of the big brains, great mind, and unbelievable personality at NASA. And he was the deputy program manager for Gateway, and now he's our moon base guy. And he is going across the program, and we are looking where can we take hardware and apply it to surface operations? Is there something we can keep in orbit, whether it's comm relay or observation, and things that do not fit into surface operations? We're repurposing. We're taking the PPE module from Gateway and putting a nuclear reactor on it and sending it to Mars with a bunch of helicopters. That's a pretty cool mission. So we're making absolutely great use of it. I almost anticipate the entirety of the Gateway team is probably going to make their way over to Moonbase along with Clips and others. So, yeah, we just want to be on the surface of the moon, not above it. That's the plan. So. Thanks for your contributions.
Rook, I'm over here, slightly off to your right. Flashlight waving.
Copy.
We've got a question coming here from Kingston. Kingston.
Thank you, Jared, for being NASA administrator and all this. But my question is about the Human Landing System program and how has SpaceX and Blue Origin have been doing with those programs.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, you'll all be able to watch and see their progress with every launch, right? So in the next, probably within the next week, maybe even better than that, the next 3 or 4 days, you're going to see Blue Origin's New Glenn launch. So that's good. Starship is supposed to launch in the next couple weeks. Look, that's the key to the whole thing. Both Blue Origin and SpaceX, maybe slightly different cadence, generally need flight rate in order to gain, the skills and actually it's essentially their ConOps for being able to enable their lander to get to the moon. So the more launches you see, the more you know they're making progress. Blue Origin's going to launch a Mark 1 lander. This is an uncrewed lander at the end of the summer. That's going to be really critical. We want to see our HLS providers getting some reps landing on the moon. And they have several others. The next Blue Origin Mark 1 lander is going to take the the Viper rover to the surface of the moon where it'll work with some of the water ice that's down there. So more launches from Blue Origin, more launches from SpaceX is how we're going to gain confidence. I will tell you, we did ask them for some simplification proposals and acceleration proposals. They already submitted it. It does simplify the vehicle design. Both proposals take down some of the technical risk, and that gives me confidence that in 2027, when Artemis 3 launches, they'll rendezvous with both landers. We're going to learn a lot from it.
All right, Rook, I am right over here, and I do have to tell you, while Brielle asked so far my favorite question, this is my second favorite question, coming to you now from Tom.
Jared, I was the youngest guy on the launch crew for Apollo 11 back in 1969.
Wow.
In all
Thank
those
you
years,
so much, sir.
In all those years, I've been waiting, for this time to go back to the moon to see that happen. My concern, though, is that I think a whole generation has been brought up in denial of the fact that we ever got there and we really did this. I saw the work that went into it. I was there, one of the 4 guys closest to the launch. I know we went. How do you convince this population of young people that have been, I think, brainwashed by China possibly to be in denial of the fact that we did this great accomplishment?
Yeah. It's well, first of all, thank you for your contributions to America's space program. We are truly standing on your shoulders right now. What a time. Well, it has been a 53-year intermission, as I said, but the show goes on, and we are going back to the moon. We are going back to stay this time. And, man, we are going to put some 4K, 8K cameras on damn near everything there. And we are going to put a constellation of orbital assets, observation assets up there. Like I said, we are bringing the world along with us this time. You're going to see the moon base be built out in real time. You're going to see the astronauts there. Even though we're focused on the South Pole right now, because that is where the water ice is and where we get some, on crater rims, some near eternal light. So we get power and water ice, which is pretty important. There is no question you're going to have some equatorial missions again. We'll go back to the sites of where those heroes landed and remove all doubt. But I'm with you. I've spoken to Harrison Schmitt and a lot of the Apollo era astronauts. I've got their moon rocks in my office, and I've seen the gloves they've worn and the spaceships they brought back from space. There's no doubt we did it, and we're going to do it again.
Brooke, I'm over here still to your right. When we talk about distance on Earth, we measure it in terms of how many continents you've traveled to get here. And I'm joined now by B. Snappy, who by far is from the farthest away you could get, just about. He's got a question for you right now. B. Snappy?
Hi, Jared. I'm from Australia. How does NASA incorporate different countries and their companies in space explorations within NASA?
Yeah, so I tell you, I don't know, the days blend together. It might have been yesterday. Was with the head of the Australian Space Agency, along with dozens of others at Space Symposium. Look, we never go alone. We take everybody with us. Australia was there helping our astronauts communicate during the Apollo era, and they just did it again during Artemis 2. A lot of those incredible images, by the way, that you all saw were beamed back to Earth over a beam of light through optical communications, and one of the 3 ground stations that supported it was in Australia. So very appreciative of that. When we said we want to build the moon base, we told all 60 of the Artemis Accord signatories, we need your help. Some of you will be able to make big contributions. The Japanese are putting a $6 billion pressurized rover on the moon. This thing is a mobile base. The Italians are putting a multi-billion-dollar habitable module on the moon for semi-permanent habitation on the moon. European Space Agency is obviously contributing to ESMs. Canadian Space Agency's got the Canadarm. That might go on the surface of the moon, might go in LEO, but they've got robotic expertise. The point is, everyone contributes, and we said, you can't contribute some of the big things, fine. We have so much mass available, so much volume for scientific payloads. Contribute. Go back to your universities. Get kids working on hardware that'll be on the moon someday. I have no doubt Australia's going to make contributions to that. I mean, this is an American-led effort, no doubt, and the taxpayers put a lot of the bill, but we are doing it not just for our nation, but for all humankind.
All right, Brooke, I am now over on your left, up here in the midway back. Chuck, what is your question?
Okay, not used to having somebody holding this. So, it's really exciting what you're doing in space, but the little A in NASA is where I fill in. I was your hypersonic technology manager 20 years ago. We flew the X-43 Mach 10 with a scramjet, and the program was canceled because the sandboxes needed to be filled, and there wasn't enough money for the flight programs. A flight program would be equivalent to what you're doing here, going to the moon, I follow on X-43 with a turbojet to take off and actually fly up to Mach 10 would be really exciting.
I agree, 100%. Look, this was the question we had, before, just on budgets, and I think the American taxpayers should expect a lot more from your government, expect a lot more from NASA, and let us focus on delivering the outcomes that get you all excited, not how quickly we burn through cash every single year, because we do not allocate capital efficiently. Aeronautics, the big A in NASA, the first A in NASA, we should be doing exactly what you said, and this is what we're trying to implement now. Why are we not working on radical airframe designs, radical propulsion, going higher and faster, exactly like we did, the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s? I mean, a lot of the cool fighter jets you're going to see here on display are leveraging the technology we helped pioneer, from fly-by-wire to thrust vectoring, that you'll see on the F-22. This is a lot of what NASA did in aeronautics for a long time, and at some point, again, like I mentioned before on our spaceflight side, we started to do lots of littles. Make everybody happy. It's just 8 million. It's just 10 million. It's just 20 million. What happens, you do enough of those, and then you can't do the stuff we're supposed to be doing, which is hypersonic flying. I completely agree with you. Or it keeps us from going back to the moon. We're sending more astronauts to the space station right now. So I'll tell you, when I visited every one of the NASA centers, right, I did town halls across all of them. I have so many different ways to get feedback. I set up inbox. They all know my email address. It's, like I said, we got about 50,000 people, so I get quite a few of these. But it's a great way to get a pulse check on everybody. And I've told them, look, I'm here at a lucky time that we're able to go to the moon. We have the mandate from the president and the resources to do it. But what do I really care about? Two things. Concentrating our resources, the money that we've been entrusted in by the taxpayers, on the true needle-moving objectives that we are supposed to accomplish as America's space agency, that no one else is capable of doing, and then clearing out as much of the bureaucracy, the obstacles, and all the BS, because we got kids here, that slow down, impede the progress of the talented workforce that is trying to get stuff done. And if we can do that, then building a moon base and returning to the moon is going to be pale in comparison of what your NASA is capable of accomplishing. So that's what we're trying to do. I agree with you completely. We are going to step in the right direction. We got Guppy here. We got some T-38s. We're just getting going. Just see what we're going to do in aeronautics in the years ahead. I promise you it's going to be a different story.
Rick, I'm still over here on your left, and we've got a question with an eye toward our future, and this will be our last question because we know you have many other obligations to get to. Ashley, your question, please.
Hi, I'm an aircraft mechanic in Alaska. I graduated the Central Florida Aerospace Academy here, and I want to help. How?
Well, first of all, that is awesome. I'll tell you, I've flown all around Alaska. I absolutely love doing it. I can't wait to get back. We actually have a launch complex up there on Kodiak Island right now, and I have no doubt we're going to wind up making great use of that, because think about it, this is the healthiest, most exciting time in launch that we've ever had as a space agency. KSC, we're using every one of the old missile pads at this point and converting them to launch pads. We're actually doing what we think is almost the unthinkable, which is maybe building even more launch pads at Kennedy Space Center. Wallops is going to get slammed with opportunity. Vandenberg out in California, and no doubt our complex up in Alaska will as well. To your point, how can you help? Look, we absolutely need the contributions from everyone to do the near impossible. I'll tell you, there's a lot of ways to potentially join NASA, whether it's through our contractors or commercial partners, even joining the agency. We've got the NASA Force program, which is term-based appointments. You want to come in, serve your country for a period of time, then go back to industry. That's potentially an option. And then you obviously can go on USA Jobs. You want to just come on right on board and join as a civil servant. But we need all the help we can get here. We'll take it.
Everyone, please give it up for Mr. Jared Rook.